Today's video takes you through how to program the TC-610 and TC-620 radios from Hytera. The radio I'm going to be using for this example is a TC-620, but a TC-610 is almost the same radio in a different shell. So to get started, the first thing we're going to have to do is actually install the software. So assuming that you've already downloaded your software, and as if by magic, the files appear, what we need to do first is actually install the driver. So let's just talk very quickly about what you need to program this radio. So you need two things. As well as the radio itself, you also need a programming cable, and that's a PC26. There are other cables that are capable of programming these TC-610 and TC-620 radios, but sometimes they're unsuccessful, and if you just buy the genuine PC26 that you can buy from various dealers, including ourselves, Radiotronics, it's a genuine Hytera cable designed for this particular radio. You're very unlikely to have any issues with it, so we recommend this cable. Okay, good. So here we go. So let's first of all assume that you've downloaded the programming software and you've also downloaded the device driver for the cable. So the first thing first is we need to unzip these. When you first download these files, they are zip files. They might not say .zip on the end depending on your configuration of Windows, but if you just look in the type field, you'll see compressed zipped folder. So we need to right click on that and click extract all, and then leave this box ticked where it says show extracted files when complete. Click extract. Yep. And then that opens a new one. What we're looking for is this particular exe executable file here, which will install the driver for us. So we'll double click on that. We do. And then we keep going, keep clicking next, and we click finish. Now that is done. Now, just to be sure that the cable is installed correctly, we need to go to Device Manager. So we go to the Start menu and we literally just type Device Space Manager. Okay, and then click on there. There we go. Now that opens this thing, which is Device Manager, and we're looking for a COM L or LPT port section category, which isn't there at the moment. So I'll just plug the cable in and you'll see it. There we go. And there we go. So that's now appeared there, and it's appeared as a prolific USB to serial COM port with a COM port or a communications port number of 4. Keep that number 4 in mind. In fact, so much so, we're not going to close the device manager. We're just going to minimize it by clicking this button here. So we'll close that folder. That was the one that we opened before. And we are back to where we were before. So you'll see that we extracted this zip file, but now we need to extract this zip file, which is the actual programming software. So again, right click, click extract all, leave this box ticked and click extract. It'll take a few seconds. Yep. And now it'll open a new window with the extracted files present. In my particular example, it's also opened a new window with a directory inside. So we'll just click in there. The first thing we need to do is open the sn.txt file. So right click on that, click open. That'll open that in Notepad, as you can see. We need to select this, so all the way from the start to the end, and then right click and click copy. Then we'll close that. We don't need that anymore. So what we need to do to install this software is right click on here and click run as administrator. The first thing it'll do is ask us to enter the password. We paste our password in there, which was the number that we got out the sn.txt file before, and click OK. Okay, this will take a few minutes, or at least 1 or 2 minutes perhaps. Yeah. Here we go. Right, so we click next, and then we have to accept the license agreement because, of course, it won't install if we don't. Username and organization. I just put the name of your organization or your name in there, your organization name. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. It still works either way. You put whatever you want in these fields. Then click next. Click next again. and finally click install. Okay, we don't just see the README file, so untick that and click finish. You'll have noticed, I'll just close this and close this, you'll have noticed it's actually put this new icon on your desktop here. So this is a HT-610E programming software. We'll go and have a look for that in the start menu as well. So if you just go to the start menu and scroll down to HYT RCPs, you've got the same thing there, HT-610E programming software. Okay, so we'll go ahead and launch that. So we'll click on that and that will open the software. You might remember that earlier we were in Device Manager making sure that the cable was installed properly and it had a communications port number, a COM number, and that number is 4 there. So the very first thing we need to do in this software is click this button here. You'll see there's a picture of what looks like a cable in between that icon and that icon. So click there and then select COM4, which, let's just run back to the Device Manager. You can see there COM4 and it's COM4. So we'll select that and click OK. With the TC-610, the programming port is also the audio port, which is here. That's where you plug in earpieces. So I'll just open that so you can see that. It may be a little dark on the video, but hopefully you can see that. There's two jack sockets there. There's a micro jack, so it's a 2.5mm jack and a 3.5mm jack there. And as I was talking about earlier, the PC26, quite simply, if we can see that, only just, yeah, quite simply plugs in there. We push it in as far as we can till you hear a click. That's it. So that cable is now in there. Now it's very important as well that we turn the radio on. Some people actually forget this and they contact us and say, oh, I can't program my radio. And we say, is it on? And they go, oh, no. Right, so let's turn it on. You won't hear any noise while this is plugged in because this is in the audio accessory socket. But nevertheless, the radio's on. So let's go back to our software. The button we press to read the radio is the one that has the arrow pointing towards the computer. If you hover over it with your mouse, you'll see it says read from radio. So let's go for that. Yep, we click that and it says click OK to continue. So let's do that. And as you can see, it's now actually reading the radio. And on the radio, there's a little red light which is flashing. So that indicates that the radio is in programming mode or it's being read. Good. So we've read that radio successfully. So we now can see the all the channels. So there's 16 channels here, 16 channel definitions. We'll just leave the radio there for a minute. All right. So let's click through all of these fields and let's just have a quick look at what we've got. So clicking onto the radio information, you'll see some information about the radio. You'll see the model. This one is a TC-620. It's got a frequency range of 440 to 470 megahertz. The serial number is present. The firmware version is also present. And the date we last programmed this particular radio, which according to this was the 11th of January last year. So that's 2018. Today is, of course, the 16th of April 2019. So it's been a long time since we programmed that radio. Then the next one is the button control. So just to show you on this radio, we'll just go to a different camera view. Yep. On this radio, there are 3 buttons. There's the push to talk button, which is this one. And then there's 2 programmable buttons here. So they're programmable button 1, which is SK1, and programmable button 2, which is SK2. I'll just show you that in the software. So SK1 is the programmable button directly below the push to talk, and SK2 here is the programmable button directly below that button. So that's what the SK1 and SK2 is, and you can actually choose different functions. So we'll just go through those. You can choose whether you want the button to be changing the power level from low to high, whether you want to activate the monitor feature, which is where it drops the squelch and drops any CSS tones, so it just listens on the frequency and what some people call open channel. We can activate or deactivate the scan feature. We can activate or deactivate the voice activation feature, and then also we can activate and deactivate the channel lock. And again, you can either do that in one of two ways. You can do that with a short press or a long press. A short press is pretty self-explanatory. You quickly press it once and it will activate whatever feature you have selected in the short press. And in the long press, if you press and hold it for a period of time, I think it's about 2 seconds, something like that, it'll activate the long feature that you've got programmed in. We don't need any programmed in for this example, so we'll just set them to none and click close. The next thing is a couple of miscellaneous things. We'll just go through them. Voice activation delay time is essentially when you're using a voice activated earpiece or a voice activated audio accessory. After your voice has activated the push to talk, that's the amount of time it waits before it deactivates the push to talk. Vox gain level is pretty much what it says. It's voice activation gain level, so it's the volume level for the voice activated accessory. CTCSS tail revert option should stay exactly where it is. That is the factory default, so leave that where it is. Carrier squelch level can be adjusted depending on whether you're in an incredibly noisy location where you've got a lot of interference and you need the squelch to go a little higher, or if you're in quite a quiet area and you can afford for your squelch to be lower, and therefore you will receive signals that are further out. However, we just leave that at 5. That's the factory standard. Power alert gap times. This one may irritate you or may not irritate you. Basically, if the radio is running out of battery, that is the gap time in seconds. It will beep. So it'll go beep beep and then it'll wait 10 seconds and then go beep beep again. So you could change that if you like to be once every 255 seconds or whatever. Quite frankly, if your battery's dying, you should just put it on charge and that would solve that. Battery save, you can choose whether you want to use battery save mode or not use battery save mode on this radio. I'll probably do a future video on battery save mode in different types of radios, how it works and what it means. The final option is voice activation inhibit on receive. So what that does is that means that while you're receiving a signal, your voice will not activate the PTT. So you won't accidentally automatically transmit over your partner who's actually speaking to you. So that's quite a good feature. So we'll close that. We've been through that. Okay, let's move down to password and I'll explain the difference between these two different types of password. You can program this radio and you can put a read password in it so nobody can read the radio unless they have that password. That's fine because this is your private information and that's okay to do. Somebody would be able to write over it using another code plug or another file. So they would be able to wipe the radio clean and start from scratch. But what they wouldn't be able to do with a read password is read your private data. A write password, on the other hand, does not allow them to write to the radio without the password. So they couldn't overwrite this, factory reset it, or start from scratch without that password. We do not recommend you ever put in a write password on any radio ever. This is because if you ever lose this password, you will not be able to make any changes to this radio and it becomes essentially a paperweight. So read passwords are okay, write passwords are bad. Don't put those on there. Then we're moving down to the channel section. So as you can see, this radio has 16 channel definitions, which is what these are here. So if we double click on the top one, that will open a little window. And what we can actually do is we can actually flick through the channels by clicking this button here. We can click right to the end, channel 16, by clicking that one, right to the beginning by clicking that one. Don't click this one though, because this will delete your channel. Well, unless you want to delete a channel, then you can click this one. But I'll tell you what we'll do, just for the purposes of this particular demonstration. We're going to go right to channel 16 and we're going to click delete. So we're going to delete all channels, right to channel 1. Obviously, we can't delete channel 1. But let's assume that we're programming in Simple UK, which is basically the channels that we get when we buy a Simple UK license. So let's start from scratch. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in 449.3125. We're going to make sure that it says CTCSS here. And we're going to make sure the CTCSS is at 67.0. And then to save ourselves a little bit of time, so we don't have to type it in here, we'll just click that button, which copies whatever's in that box to that box. we need to ensure that our channel spacing is narrow, because narrow channel spacing on this particular radio is 12.5 kilohertz, and that's what Ofcom has told us that we have to use as our channel spacing. And of course, we need to just leave the power level at high. And then if we pop to miscellaneous, you can see that we're in personality list 1. I'll just go through personalities in a few minutes. They're different channel definitions. Some radios combine personalities and channel definitions. An example of that is the CP040, which you can check out another video on our YouTube channel if you're interested in the CP040. But the channel definition on this radio is separate to the personality. So as you can see, channel definition is assigned to personality list 1, which is that one there. And also it is assigned to scan 1, which is there. Now it's very important that we don't have this box ticked here. Auto start scan. I'm happy that I found this box was ticked, because it shouldn't be. Otherwise we'd have programmed this radio, and this radio would have been activating the scan feature automatically. So we untick that. If you ever want a scan feature on your radio, you should activate it manually. And you do that by going to the buttons section, clicking scan in the short press, and then that means that this button would switch scan on and off. So just to see that again very quickly, we've just demonstrated that by SK1 short, which is again that button I've got in my hand there. Don't have auto scan switched on unless you have a real need for auto scan. Not that I can think of one. So there we go. We've got one channel, which is the first channel of the simple UK Ofcom license. If you're watching this from another country, you'll have to get a frequency from your local frequency spectrum licensing organisation. Ours is called Ofcom. In Ireland, they're called Comreg. So let's just add another channel. So we'll add channel 2. That one in the simple UK license is 449.400. Again, CTCSS, but we always want to select 67 unless we have a good reason not to. So CTCSS 67.0, and then again change that to narrow, make sure the power is high. In miscellaneous, personality list 1 and scan list is 1. Then one more channel for the Ofcom UK license, which is 449.4750. Again, CTCSS and select 67. There we go, and we'll click copy to there. One last time, narrow and personality list 1 and scan list 1. Okay, fine. So we now have 3 program channels. Let's go back and have a look. We have channel 1, which is 449.3125. Channel 2, which is 449.400. And channel 3, which is 449.4750. So if you followed me so far, you'll see that we've programmed 3 channels. We assigned scan to the button below the PTT, and we were ensuring that the auto start scan was not ticked. So now we've done all those, we can now close that box, and let's now jump to personality. Just to recap, all of these channels are assigned to personality 1. That's why we're jumping to personality. So personality 1 here. So we get transmit admit criteria. So this is the criteria in which we are allowed to transmit. Unless you have a reason not to, I suggest you leave this on always allow. Sometimes you can select channel 3, which will allow you to transmit when there's no other transmissions coming through. You could also allow transmission whenever there is no matching CTCSS. So when there's no other transmission that you expect, it allows you to transmit. However, leave it on always allow. The TX timeout is basically the amount of time that you can hold the push to talk button in before the radio will electronically deactivate the push to talk. The reason for this is that portable radios typically have very inefficient antennas. That means that the output transistors within the radio get very warm. And if they didn't have some sort of safeguard like this, you could just hold the push to talk button indefinitely. Not only would that flatten the battery, that would put unnecessary strain on the output transistor. So in order to stop that from happening, the radio will stop you from transmitting once you've been transmitting for 60 seconds. Besides, if you keep talking for 60 seconds, you've got a lot to say, and you probably need to make a phone call. The rest of these, we just leave at 10, 0, and 0. The one that matters is 60. We always leave that at 60. And then squelch is CTCSS and DCS mode. So that's fine. Everything in this box, in this personality, is exactly as we'd expect it. The next one we'll jump to very quickly is the scan option. So we'll just leave that in the default, which is priority and non-priority channel. That's fine. And then in the channel list, all we need to do is select the 3 channels. So we select channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. And we'll just change that to have 3 channels in the scan list. And what that means that will do is if we activate scan, it will go 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, like that. So essentially it just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. That does use extra battery. It's important to note that when you use a scan feature, it uses extra battery power. So it's important that you only use scan when you actually need to use it. Okay, good. So we'll click close on there. Finally, what you can do is you can actually embed a message in the radio. Well, you can embed 4 messages actually. We usually just put the name of our company in here, and then we just put sales at radiotronics.co.uk, which is of course the company I work for. And that means that if anybody ever reads this radio, they'll know where it came from. You don't have to do that, it's just something we do. We used to put our phone number in as well, but realistically, our website address doesn't change, so that's a good one to put in there. You can put the name of your company, the name of your dealer, the name of the person who programmed the radios. You can put up to 4 bits of information in there and click close. Right, so just to check, we now have 3 channels. So let's have a quick look again. We've got 449.3125, 449.400, and 449.4750. I'll just bring the radio back in so you can just see it. We've still got the cable plugged in. That's the PC26, as I showed you earlier. And now we're in a good place to close this, and now we can write to the radio. So if we click this and we click write, it will say, are you sure? Well, it actually says click OK to continue. It amounts to the same, I suppose. And click OK. It will now start writing to the radio. As you can see, the light is now flashing green, not red. So that indicates the radio is being written to, not being read from. Okay, so we've now programmed the radio successfully. Now, if we had a fleet of these radios, all we would do now is we would get another radio, we would plug it in, and we would quite simply go to the right radio over and over again and just continue writing our radios. The beauty of analog radios is that we don't need to change anything at all in the radio. We just clone them, so every radio is a clone of the other. So that pretty much brings this video to a close. If you have any questions at all or any comments, please leave them in the comments section for the video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we post a new video or start a live stream.